Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
A lot of people publish a book, but how do you actually make money from it? So then using that to leverage and say, all right, how do you book speaking gigs and PR and publicity? How do you integrate it into your business?
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta, and I'm your host, empowerment coach, visibility and marketing expert, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Chandler. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Marta, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay! I am so excited to finally be able to connect with you in real time, one-on-one. We've been involved in this project of me launching a collaboration book for the last few months with the support of your amazing company, Self-Publishing. And now I get to share you and your amazingness and self-publishing amazingness with my audience. So for those of you who don't know who you are, which I'm pretty sure lots of people know who you are, or at least have seen your name or face in some capacity, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Chandler Bol. I run a company called selfpublishing.com. We help people write and publish books that grow their business. We've published about 7,000 books in the last 8 years or so, and we publish about 2 books a day.
Wow.
So we publish a lot of books and have a lot of fun doing it. And kind of part of my origin story is I'm a college dropout and a C-level English student with ADHD. So if I could publish a book, and you're listening to this, you probably can as well. Because if there was a least likely to succeed superlative of my high school in terms of publishing, or maybe least likely to publish, it would have been me. So that's the background.
Oh my goodness. I just love, the origin story and how you got started. And that's a huge part of your book, which I've had the pleasure of reading. I'd love for you to talk about the book later on too. But I'd love to hear a little bit more. How did you, based on what you just said of your backstory, how did you get into this? Where did the idea of selfpublishing.com even come about?
Yeah, it's been a process of just maximizing the next thing in front of you. Or in front of me, really. My parents always taught growing up, they had this phrase, it's bloom where you're planted. And so it was just one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And so it started by writing and publishing a couple books myself. They did pretty well. And then people started asking about it. They said, hey, how are you doing this book stuff? And I would just get on the phone with somebody, people for an hour and for free, just teach them everything I learned. And next thing I knew, it was just a lot of people. And I'm like, hold up, I should charge for this. And so we enrolled our first cohort of authors into, it was like a beta of our coaching program. And so it was 44 people. And I think it was about 60% of them wrote and published a book inside of 6 months.
Wow.
Which for anyone who's written and published a book, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And hard to do. And so then that really gave me the faith and confidence that, hey, we're on to something. I can replicate some of the results that I've had in other people, which is kind of like a big sticking point for me of like, okay, I've done it, but can I teach it? And so then once that happened, then the light bulb really went on for me. And I realized, all right, we've got something, let's scale it. And so then over the years since then, it's just been doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. And it's evolved from self-publishing school to now selfpublishing.com. And it used to be just an education company. And we still are in a lot of ways, like curriculum, coaching, all that stuff. But now we have a ton of services. And as you've seen, like cover design, formatting, ISP, and like all the different stuff to just help make the process easier for people. So that's the goal.
Wow. And it's just super comprehensive from the side of a client. I can say it's been amazing to see how their support for every little detail in the whole process. And especially since I published my first book, going a different route and not working with you guys, it's nice to have everything under the same umbrella and just say, I need this, or what's the next step, and not have to go and ask and, interview people or whatever. It's all
Cool.
there. So that is something
Yeah.
also that I would love for you to share is
this journey, and I know a lot of it is in your book too, because I think an important piece here is for people to understand that if they're even considering publishing a book, or specifically with you guys, is they need to get a hold of your book, because you have, I mean, the amount of value in that thing. Like you could go and you could get published by just reading that book.
Yeah.
It's really serious, right? I mean, all these things are on there, but obviously the support and the accountability is huge as well. So tell us how, from start to finish, because that's stuff that people ask me too, like, how was it? What did you do? And there's a lot that goes into it. So tell us.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, a lot of people have read my book published and published their book just off of that. Wow. And that's the goal. And so I think honestly, answering your question, it's kind of a microcosm of what we teach, is give away all of your best stuff for free and people will pay you to tell it to them again. Right. And so it's, how do you, when you're actually writing and publishing this book, how do you make sure that it's the best possible information on what you teach? And sure, it's a 10,000 foot view. So then they can go further with you and get the implementation or the step-by-step, right? And so in my book Published, which I recommend everyone gets, we give it away for free everywhere. It's all over the site and all that stuff, because we just want this to be a resource to say, hey, read this, and either one of two things are going to happen. It's going to help you do it, and you say, hey, I'll do it myself, totally fine. Or you'll read it and you'll say, I need Chandler's help and I need selfpublish.com's help, which that happens pretty often. And so it's kind of just, it's doing what we teach, which is use a book as the starting point, the kind of the virtual introduction. I call it the silent salesman, where the book's selling and you don't have to say a thing, right? And then the benefit of that is you have better customers, you have better customers, better employees, easier onboarding, like all those things, because they've read the book. And so they know the methodology, they know what's coming. And so that's kind of how we do it and what I recommend for people. And I don't know if that really answers your question, but in the book, it talks about kind of like the 7 milestones of publishing. So it's the first 4 are what we call the more writing method. So mind map, outline, rough draft, editing. And then it moves into like formatting, cover design, and launch, which is a really big piece. So we got a bunch of chapters and kind of frameworks around launching successfully. And then to your point, I wanted to go beyond that and say, all right, a lot of people publish a book, but how do you actually make money from it? So then using that to leverage and say, all right, how do you book speaking gigs and PR and publicity? How do you integrate it into your business? So kind of talk about a lot of those things in the book as well.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted us to get in. But I'll just say, instead of us telling you, listeners, all of these things, just go and get Chandler's book for free on his website. Read it, because that's what he wants you to do, so that you'll understand the process. If you want to go and do it yourself, awesome. And if you want support from self-publishing, then they'll be there for you. So we'll be sure and put the links and make sure everyone gets access to that. And one of the things, so fun fact, I just recorded an interview for your podcast with the project that we're doing. And one of the things that I mentioned is, when I finally decided to get and publish my first book, was because a mentor of mine said, Marta, if you're serious about being a speaker, you need to have a book. And people know I talk a lot about speaking. It's a big thing for my business. I help people get on TEDx and all that stuff. So I'd love to hear from you, from your perspective, somebody that knows the industry. What can a book do for someone that wants to get into speaking, and how do they go about that, like monetizing, like what you were saying?
Yeah, great question. It's really a foot in the door. And that's where, I think the chapter that you alluded to that's in my book about PR and publicity, I talk about the rungs of the ladder, right? You've got your A, your B, and your C opportunities. And C is maybe local opportunities or lower level opportunities. It could be podcast, TV, newspaper, but it's lower rung. Then you've got your B level opportunities, which is your regional, your statewide, maybe your bigger or medium-sized podcast. And you got your A opportunities. It's the ones that everybody wants to be on, the ultimate pinnacle being like, all right, the Today Show, Good Morning America, like stuff like that, right? Most people start straight with the A's. And I recommend instead starting with the B's or the C's, and really the highest rung up on the ladder that you can get a yes from. And so that's kind of like the framework that I think about that. And then there's the 3 R's to booking, speaking gigs, and referrals. So speaking gigs and publicity there's research, referrals, and reach outs. And so that's that's where, really digging into the research and saying, all right, what are my ideal places that I want to speak or present or get publicity on? And then now, are there any referrals that can I get at least a warm intro? Mm-hmm. And the next best thing to a warm intro is sending a physical copy of your book. Still not as good as someone saying, like Marta, if you said to somebody, hey, you should have Chandler speak at your event. That's the ultimate intro for me, right? But the next best thing is nowhere near as good as if I know that you guys know each other and I say, hey, I saw that you know Marta, I do too. Here's a copy of my book. I'd love to speak at your event, right? Not quite a warm intro, but still it's an example of using maybe a personal connection and or your book to stand out. And so that's the referrals piece. And then the reach outs are it's really the big thing. So whether it's a TEDx event and saying, all right, let's take that framework, right? Research, who are all the TEDx organizers? All right, referrals, do I know anyone that knows a TEDx organizer? And then reach outs, how do I get in front of every single person? And go directly to the decision maker? Because sure, they're going to have the application form probably on the site or as part of their event. And yeah, maybe do that just so you're in the queue. But then also what I always like to think about is how do I use this book or a personal relationship or just pure scrappiness to get around the gatekeepers and straight to the decision makers?
Yes. And it's all about building those relationships. And it's a practice that we have to develop as business owners, period. And the book is just another way of doing that. Something that I wanted you to touch on, I want people to hear this from you because I've learned this the hard way, meaning I've gone through the experience and kind of like the heartache of understanding that I'm not going to be a millionaire with my book. And I think there's a huge misconception with that. And you're talking about, offering your book for free on your website, giving books away just as an entryway for potentially speaking. It's not just a guaranteed. And I know that as somebody that's considering writing a book or somebody that's in the process of writing a book, that makes them want to cry. Like, I want you to buy my book. I don't want to give my book away. So what do you say to that? And how can an author, especially as an entrepreneur, which is what we're talking about here, right? Where is their revenue going to come from? What do they have to have in place if they're giving books away?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great distinction. I mean, first off, the people who make the most money from their books are self-published. So you're not going to be a millionaire, but you can do well. And there's definitely the outliers, the unicorns. So it is possible, right? And then we've got, but it starts with Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. What's your end goal with the book? And then optimize for that. So we've got a pod of people that we work with at selfpublishing.com, fiction authors, children's book authors, or just people who want to just write books. We say, all right, cool. We're going to teach you all the stuff on how to sell more books. And that is your business model. Now it's really hard. And it's going to take a while. And it's not this overnight get rich quick thing. But it is possible to go full-time strictly as an author. But to your point, the way faster and more direct path is using the book to grow your business. So that's kind of the path that I've always taken. So if that's the goal, well, then how do I, then I just reverse engineer to that goal, right? And that's why giving away the book is a big thing for me, is I look at how do you use your book to get more leads, sales, and referrals. So leads, these are people who hear about your business because of your book. So there's a ton of people who would never know about selfpublishing.com that find my book published and they're like, this is interesting. Let's talk, right? Then there's more sales. So that's getting more of the people who already know about you to do business with you. And then more referrals. That's turning your customers into active referrers, right? And so that's where, a lot of people say a book is the new business card. I think a book is better than a business card because if I give you a business card, I mean, let's just be real, you're probably throwing it away within 24 hours. But if I give you a book, you keep that book, it's in your home or in your office. And every time you see that book, you think of me and my business, right? So that's kind of all those things. I'm saying that to set up the approach of that's why we give it away. Like I'll go speak for hundreds of people or 1,000 people or whatever, and we'll bring a few hundred books, which is sure, it's $1,000 or $1,500 worth of my own money to buy those books and to bring those books. But we see that, at events like that, we might bring in $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, maybe even more in customers because they get a copy of the book. They give us their contact information. They book a call with my team. We chat, we end up working together. And so that's just kind of how we look at it, is how do we just get this book in as many hands as possible, and preferably get contact information in exchange, which, and I'm kind of going on a long answer here, but I mean, if you think about it, most people pay for leads, right? Business owners pay for leads, $10, $20, $50. When you give away a book, well, in a lot of cases, you're either getting free leads if it's digital, or you're getting paid to get leads when people buy your book and give you contact information. Or like, even if I give away a physical copy of my book, like at a conference, okay, $5, maybe $4, $5. I pay a lot more than that for leads on Facebook and Google and YouTube and all that stuff. So I look at it as just like, hey, this is just a cost of lead, and it's a way better cost of lead, and it's a way better lead. And so if you get super nerdy on the business side of things and you look at like revenue per lead and all that stuff, okay, not all leads are created equal. And in fact, these are much better.
Mm-hmm. And just to reiterate what you just said, it is possible for you to make a lot of money just writing, and you support people that want to do that. But technically speaking, it is a longer road, and it's a harder road.
Yes.
Doing what you and I are doing, which is reverse engineering the book as a way to generate leads for your business. So you're not living off of the sales of your business, or that's not your main intention. Your main intention is to bring people to your business, meaning you have to have offers that will then bring you income that way.
Right.
I want to make that so clear.
Yeah.
Saying, there's confusion when it comes to speaking too. People are like, I'm just going to be a speaker. And it's like, okay, well, until you get to a point where you get paid thousands to go speak, you need to have something else that you're going to be selling, which is coaching, which even if you are getting paid 20 grand to go speak somewhere, you need to be offering something for when you leave that place for them to continue working with you. So I need to say this, because people have this idea that it's just like you write a book and you're best selling, New York Times, and all your problems are solved. That's not business. But I'd love to hear from you the process. Okay, so you said once people get a hold of the book and they understand what self-publishing is, or even for the ones that are listening now, what is the journey of working with you guys? So starting with booking a call, walk us through.
Yeah. So it starts with go to selfpublishing.com/apply, book a call with the team. On that call, we talk about your goals for your book, your challenges with your book, your next steps. So we start to put together a plan, which for, maybe like a lesson within a lesson is for anyone that's trying to build a business off of the back end of your speaking, like you talked about, just watch the process of how we do it. So it almost always starts with some sort of discovery call. We create a customized plan based on that. And then we work with that person over the course of the next year to get the book done. So that is one-on-one coaching. There's customized curriculum. There's services like you mentioned, where we're doing the cover design, the formatting, all that stuff. And so our goal is really just to help be kind of the guide through that process, but then also to just knock out a bunch of the tough logistical, kind of like you were saying, it's like you'd have to hire a cover designer or a formatter, all this stuff. So we just want to take that out of the equation. The author keeps all the rights and royalties to the book, and we want to put the power back in the hands of the author. So that's kind of how we do it. I think for you guys with the anthology and the collaboration book, I mean, it was pretty exciting to see, because if I'm not mistaken, it was way shorter than a year, and there was 21 people working on that book. And so that was kind of a really cool use case for us to see, like, okay, this is working. We're like, we think we can do this, but okay, because I mean, you guys just did an awesome job of just, you were obviously making sure that people were on point, getting their chapters turned in, like all that. So that was a really cool and fun experience to see that play out.
Yeah. So just to reiterate again, it's a whole year. So people work with you for a whole year.
Yep.
Beginning to end until it's published and beyond, because you help with the marketing and even getting exposure. I'm experiencing that now. They get a list of podcasts they can pitch to. It's the whole thing. Like, you don't need to go anywhere else. It's all on there. Whether you're going to do everything that's on the recommendations, that's a different story, because it's a lot. But what I'm, from the perspective of having published my book, or my first book, is I could still be, and I should still be, promoting a published book. there's a lot of effort that goes into the launch, but your book's still there, and it's your job to create, to make it relevant to your market and to your audience, even post publishing. So that's something else that I think there's a little bit of confusion, that it's like, I missed my window of success because my launch didn't go as planned. And it's like, no, you still have the opportunity to talk about it because it's your baby.
Right. Yeah.
But I do want to talk a little bit more about the collaboration book from your perspective now, because I shared on your podcast how it went for me. And it's fun to know that this was the first. It was the first for your amazing and successful company. So I'd love to hear, like, when I suggested this to you guys, like what was the process, and just what you shared right now, that it actually went faster. Like, tell us more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was a unique idea, and you guys did a great job executing it, because I think it's easy to do an anthology or a collaboration book and it just not be good. And so that was our main thing. It's like, all right, we want to make sure that this is good, that this is quality. We don't want to just slap together a book.
Oh my goodness. The whole experience of working with selfpublishing.com was incredible, and I highly recommend you checking them out if you're looking into publishing your first or your next book. Just go to selfpublishing.com for more details, and also to get Chandler's amazing book titled Get Published. And last but not least, I must do a shameless plug here. You must go to Amazon right now and get my new book featuring 21 amazing authors, The Empowered Woman's Path, 21 Inspiring Stories of Success in Life and Business. We have Kindle, paperback, and also the hardcover, so go check it out. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends, or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.